everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to make a few different cards using Christina Warner's Thankful Leaves stamp set. I thought it was so perfect for fall and just making thank you cards. I love the sentiments that come with it. You can see thanks so much, autumn greetings with sincere thanks, thank you, thankful for you, and thanks. The bundle, I went ahead and purchased everything with this, but it comes with a stamp set. There's also a stencil pack that comes with, let's see. Yeah, it comes with 5 stencils, but I'm going to just use 2 of the stencils today. I'm going to use ones for coloring all of the leaves, and then there's also one for doing the stems. So I had an idea to use to make 3 different panels in an easy way, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. I'm planning to use some colored cardstock. So I have some craft cardstock, and this is sort of like an ivory and off-white. And then I also have some Tim Holtz heavyweight cardstock. It's really smooth and perfect for ink blending because I'm planning to bring in distress oxides for that. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to bring in the insert, the grip mat from my Altenew stamp wheel. It's going to stick down really well on my glass mat and hold our cardstock in place. So I'm using the alignment guides that you can purchase separately with my stamp wheel, but this is going to allow me to put my cardstock in place every time. And I'm going to create a hinge with the 2 panels. So we're going to go ahead and blend on the Tim Holtz Distress Heavy Cardstock first, just so I can get this lined up. So I'm going to make sure my cardstock is down flat. Now is time to kind of figure out where do I want the placement of my stencils. So you can always tell which side is supposed to be the front because if you were to stick it down like this over time with stencils, some of it can peel back and leave residue on your sticky mat. It's not going to ruin it, but it can be kind of difficult to get off, just FYI. So I can tell that the labeling is on the front of this stencil, so I know that this is supposed to be up. So I know I kind of want it to be positioned kind of something like this. I want there to be an area that's left for our sentiment. I think that placement's going to be pretty good. So before I completely leave it stuck down, I want to also layer this with the other stencil set that's going to come with. So if we do something like that, I think that'll be good. Now, what we want to do first is to use some low tack tape. And I have this purple kind of silky tape I've used in the past for stenciling. And we want to make sure that we get that first one like this so we can peel it back. Okay, and then we're going to do the same for down below here on the first stencil set. And this will allow us to kind of keep it in the same spot each time. So these are the colors of distress oxides I'm going to be using. Rustic Wilderness, Peeled Paint, Fossilized Amber, Abandoned Coral, and Lumberjack Plaid. I want to keep a light hand with these, and so I'm going to bring in some of my Simon Says Stamp ink blending brushes. And I'm going to go as light as possible. We're going to start with our darkest green. I'm going to take, this is just a flower sack cloth. And I'm going to try to get off some, whatever excess ink is still here. Okay. And let's go ahead and remove our excess. But again, I'm going to keep a very light hand if I can. And I don't want to go too far down with it because I want to leave plenty of room for our next color. And so in between each blend, I'm just going to try to get some of that excess ink off. Okay. Next we have peeled paint. Oop, it's kind of juicy, so let's be careful. Okay. And we can always go back and add more ink where we want it. Next, let's bring in some fossilized amber. Distress Oxide inks are my favorite for ink blending because they are a dye ink and a pigment ink. So they're a hybrid ink and they blend like butter on cardstock. The only downside to them is that they do take longer to dry. So you just want to be careful when you're creating a panel that you don't get all inky and ruin it. I've ruined many panels, which is ultimately okay because it is paper, but it can be frustrating after you've spent so long on a card project and you're kind of just, sometimes it's hard not, sometimes I just have to walk away because it's just not going my way. All right, let's bring in some abandoned coral. And it is pretty vibrant looking, so I'm gonna be very, and you can kind of see like my blending brush, it's not super smooth right here, but if we keep going over it a little bit, it will blend out. Now, what I might need to do is bring back in my yellow brush and help smooth that out with the blend. Like that. All right. And then the last little bit of area is for my lumberjack plaid. And I did forget to mention that I went ahead and trimmed down all of these panels to be 4 by 5 1/4. So that way it's ready for my card base. Okay. The reason why I did that is because I plan to use a stencil paste with this, and when it dries, it's pretty difficult to cut through, so I just wanted it to be ready. All right, so I'm pretty happy with the blend. I think I'm gonna just kind of go back over in some areas, trying not to use too heavy of a hand, just using what's left on the brush. You know, I kind of brought up the yellow a little bit further than I want, so I am going to bring back in a little bit more of the peeled paint, but I'm going to just pick it up off my mat here. Just like that. And same with the rustic wilderness. All right, that's looking really good. So we're going to use the hinge, but remember it's going to be sticky on this grip mat, so you will have to pull back a little bit. But once we do, it should look like that. That's super pretty. Since I want to use this part last because it's a messy part, I'm going to take my panel and stick it up here to dry. Now we're going to bring in our second cardstock, and we're going to do that all over again. variations that we have between the three panels, right? All right. Before we do the next step, since we're done with the ink blending, we can go ahead and remove our hinge. And we're going to leave the other hinge on there. And I'm going to just take some rubbing alcohol and get this extra ink cleaned up off the mat. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and clean my stencil off screen, but I'm going to lay it on another cloth like that. Because I don't know if you've ever cleaned your stencils on the glass mat, but they usually puddle underneath and it just makes it difficult. So if you put another cloth beneath, it's a breeze to clean up. And I use rubbing alcohol to clean mine because it dries so quickly. And so, yeah, just like that, it's as good as clean. And this tape could even be repurposed. So I'm going to set that to the side as well. Now, we want to bring in our panels again. And, well, before I do that, I'm just going to bring in a stamp chamois and clean up some of this ink real quick. This is just moistened with water. I've had this stamp chamois from Lawn Fawn for years at this point, and it's lasted. I have a spare and I've really had no need to use it, so that's great. Just make sure it's dry. And now we're going to just line our panel up again and hope that this hinge situation has worked. So yeah, it will stick to that corner, so just like that. Just the panel just a little bit. It looks like I need to come over. Oh, that made it worse. Let's see. So see, this is one of those plans that, you know, I had, and it's really close. And I'm going to use the Lawn Fawn Gold stencil paste. It's a really pretty color. Just stir that out. And if we put some across the top like this, we can bring in our stencil buddy, and let's see if this works. I think I have enough up here, and we can always go back over, but all right, so the idea is that we will go like that, and that worked out hopefully pretty good. Okay, and since we have our hinge, easy to pick up, just be careful. That's really pretty. So we're gonna Okay, now that we have everything cleaned up and we have a clean workspace, and our panels are still sort of drying, we are going to bring in our stamp set so that we can emboss some of the sentiments to go with the cards. So I'm trying to figure out what color of cardstock I want to go with, because since we have an off-white, a white, and kind of a craft color, I think black would go really well with all of those if we did. And I don't know if I've ever heat embossed gold on black. I just feel like it would go well, but we will find out. So I'm going to use my Misty. And just plop this in the corner. I'm going to use some anti-static powder to just remove any oils or lotion from the panel. Let's go ahead and open our stamp set. And I'm just going to pick out all of the greetings. I mean, we could do yeah, I mean, we could, instead of, I don't think we left enough room, but we could have embossed directly onto the panel. And just gonna bring in those. So almost all of them. Use the Misty to pick them up. You can kind of see there were some Versamark ink left on some of them, but that's not a problem. We're just going to ink them up. And we use the Misty, and I have a grit mat in here, so it allows me to get the perfect impression right in the same spot. I think that looks pretty good. We could use a little bit more on the autumn, I think. Like that. Oop. Oh, I set that down like that. Be okay. I'm going to set my Misty to the side, and I want to bring in a piece of scrap printer paper. And I'm going to use Brutus Monroe Gilded. It's a really pretty gold embossing powder. And we're just going to see how this turns out. So and we use the paper so it catches the excess. And you can see that the autumn greetings, I kind of messed that one up. But we'll go ahead and move forward with it. And then we just use this paper to dump the powder back in. Now, some of my embossing powders I do have in a little container, and I have a scoop in there. But as far as storing all of that, that's not always the easiest. So a lot of times I will use paper like that, and that's like just a trick that I learned from Kathy Zilski. And next we're just going to bring in our heat tool, and I'm going to turn it on and get it heated up. Okay, so I did mess up two of the sentiments, the T's. Got kind of cut off on the thank you, but that's okay. And I was heating it from the back. That was I can't remember, I think it may have been Christina Warner that was talking about heat embossing from behind the card panel, and it gets a smoother result. So this is the first time that I did that, and I have to agree, it looks really good. Once your embossing powder has cooled, I'll just bring in my cloth to remove the powder that we put down to prevent powder from sticking. And I'll need to bring in my mats. I have ordered a new magnetic map and plates, so I'm gonna get them replaced. It's not, they say you don't need to unless this starts bowing, but I've cut into this so much that things get snagged on that, so it's just time, I think. And it is meant to be a consumable. Now we're gonna get the die cuts. I'm gonna lay this here. Sincere thanks. Let's just see if we can line this up all right. And use some low-tack tape if you need to. I get a little bit overconfident sometimes, and I rely on the mat too much. And I could end up regretting this, but you just want to be careful when you take your panel behind you that it doesn't shift. And I'm going to run this through the die cut machine. All right, time to see how we did. I have a tool that is used for magnetic nail polish to create cat eyes that I just ordered off Amazon. So I use this to help me pick up the die cuts. Whoa, kind of flew away there. So just put these, that. We're gonna set our plates back over here so you don't lose any of them. I have definitely done that, and I don't know if you've ever been a victim, but you feel like you have to tear apart the entire craft space to find it. So now let's bring in all 3 panels. And let's see, let's just test. I mean, it feels not too bad. It could use some additional drying, but I just wanted to kind of show you what our options are. So I think all of the sentiments would kind of get popped up like this in the corner. Now the black and white is kind of a stark contrast here, but I think I still like that. I think it looks really good on all 3. So I think I'll go with sincere thanks, thankful for you, and thanks so much. We'll wanna, so a couple of different ways that you could pop it up is with cutting out additional layers of paper, but I think I will like to just use foam adhesive. So I've got some strips as well, on the ones where I can kind of fit a strip. So let's do a couple. Bring in my scissors. Any extra that we trim off. Can do that. Set that one to the side. I might just grab another. That one will be pretty good. Yeah, now the only concern is that part of this sentiment, you know, won't be supported, but I think it will be fine. Oh, I did just trim off a little bit of the cardstock with my scissors, but you can't notice that much, but time to walk away from those. I will bring in my little picker to help me peel the backings off of these, and we'll kind of put those out of the way. So I'm just going to add some down. And then we just want to it doesn't give you that much wiggle room, but just enough. And as far as lining things up, you know, I always eyeball it. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong. But if that was the one thing that I really struggled about in the beginning, is that I can have perfectionist tendencies, and so when things just didn't turn out the way I wanted them to, it was frustrating. I actually took almost a year hiatus with my card making because my husband and I moved from an apartment to the house that we're living in now. And between my craft space getting messed, you know, completely up and turned upside down, it just wasn't the priority for me at that time. So I've had almost a year off between making cards. I mean, I wouldn't say the full year. There was times that I had made some cards quickly for a coworker, but yes, so in card making, I just want to recommend that you give yourself some grace. Understand that it's just paper, and the imperfections are what make it a homemade card. I mean, if our goal was to give them a perfect manufactured card, wouldn't we just go to the store and buy one? So don't compare yourself to the major influencers that are in this space, and make something that's unique for you, and it'll be okay. So these are our finished panels. The next step would be to put them onto card bases, and I always use Nina Solar Crest Classic White, the smooth kind, and the 110-pound version. It's a nice heavy weight, and it is cut. I take an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and I'll cut it in half, and then I'll score it. So this would be a top folding card, but you could also make it a traditional fold on the side where the crease is. It just depends on how you cut it. So it's really up to you. I kind of go back and forth between the top folding card plus a side